He is a man walking at top of the food chain. Each meal's ingredients are unique. He took out a pair of fresh waste slices, wash and slice, hot pot cold oil, add seasoning again, stir fry over high heat until fragrant, then start cooking and serve on a plate. Sprinkle some more scallions for embellishment. Just like this, a delicious girl's waist slice is ready. A mouthful full evil flavor. I believe everyone has already guessed. He is the ogre who has been recorded in film history. Uncle Hannibal Barber is a highly respected psychologist. He has an elegant demeanor, extremely intelligent. With every move and gesture, it still exudes a faint aristocratic temperament. This day, Federal Agent Jack suddenly visited the house. Uncle B.A.'s expression is very delicate. There seems to be a feeling of waiting for a long time. The purpose of Jack's trip is to ask Uncle Bar to do a psychological test for their special investigator Will. Will was a college teacher in criminal psychology. Because there is a trace that can be traced back to the crime scene, special ability to restore the perpetrator's criminal process. Invited by Jack to assist in the investigation. 8 recent cases of missing girls. Jack took Will to the home of the last missing girl for investigation. Will's keen discovery. The girl was kidnapped at home. When he pushed open the girl's room, the girl's body is actually lying on the bed, and this scene shocked the girl's father too. Because he just came to his daughter's room yesterday, this also left the entire investigation team confused. Why would the killer risk being caught, bring back the body of this girl? At the autopsy, the forensic doctor found that the girl's liver had been removed, but it was put back again. Will believes that this killer may have a cannibalistic habit. The killer may be planning to eat his liver. It turned out that the girl had liver disease, so he put it back again. This may be why the killer brought him back. With Will's franchise case, although we have some clues, but it's still difficult to break through. Because Will found out that the culprit they were investigating was not a murderous demon without blinking an eye. This is completely inconsistent with his judgment, and Will is already suffering from social phobia. When he was restoring the crime scene, often fantasize about oneself as a murderer, and bring it into the scene at that time. It's like an actor getting too deeply involved in a scene and able to extricate himself. Not only caused him great psychological stress, often awakened by nightmares. So Jack found a psychology professor at Will's same school. I hope he can give Will a psychological test, but was politely rejected by the professor. Under the recommendation of the professor, Jack took the liberty of finding Uncle Bar. After understanding the whole story, Uncle Bar also developed a strong interest in Will, so I agreed to Jack's request. This is Uncle B.A.'s first meeting with Will. The sharp Uncle Bar saw through Will at a glance, saying that his sense of responsibility and self-esteem have been severely damaged in association. Therefore, they will often be awakened by nightmares. Will just realized that. Jack actually asked someone to do a psychological profile of himself, so he left in anger. Later, Uncle Bar told Jack that the investigative talent that brought him to the scene was a double-edged sword. Once the critical point is crossed, there is a possibility that we will never be able to turn back. That is to say, Will has the possibility of blackening. Next, Uncle Bar volunteered to help him and Will. Meanwhile, the forensic team has new clues. He found a small shovel on the clothes of the murdered girl. The shovel has a specific water pipe coating, so the killer is likely a plumber or a lathe worker. Early the next morning, Uncle Bar personally went to the door to find Will, and I also thoughtfully prepared breakfast with sausages and scrambled eggs for Will. Apologize for yesterday's rudeness. Will doesn't have much liking for Uncle Bar now, so soon a topic was brought up to the case. They came to a construction site according to the shovel on the victim girl. Will was flipping through the workers' resignation letters. Found a worker named Hobbs very suspicious. All other workers had their home addresses left, and he only left one phone number. After inquiring, it was found that Hobbs was a worker in aphid management, and his family members are basically similar to the clues that Will has. Hence, Will is preparing to investigate this person. As they prepare to leave with their documents, Uncle Bar intentionally dropped the information on the ground, while Will and the administrator are picking up information. Uncle Bar quietly called Hobbs. Why? Can also. Subsequently, Will and old Bar arrived at Hobbs' house, but I haven't entered yet. Hobbs pushed his wife out of the door, and he has already cut his throat. Will quickly rushed into the room, but Hobbs took his own daughter hostage again. At a critical moment, Will fired decisively. Fortunately, the girl was rescued in a timely manner, out of danger to life. But is Hobbs the one behind the 8 disappearances? And is his daughter aware of this matter? Why would Uncle Bar notify Hobbs? Follow me, explore the inner world of this lonely gourmet Hannibal together. Take a closer look. This is a mushroom cultivated from human body, paired with Hannibal's tender roasted young loin, add fruit sauce seasoning and embellishments. The taste is simply breathtaking. As mentioned in the previous episode, Hannibal assisted Will in solving the serial missing girl case, although the killer Hobbs was killed on the spot, but the 8 victims only found one body, so the case didn't end, and Will also killed someone for the first time with a gunshot, suffering from psychological abnormalities, frequent hallucinations, thus losing the authority to execute field tasks. But even so, Detective Jack still took him to the wooden house, where Hobbs committed the crime during his lifetime. Assist in investigation. This place is filled with the skeletons of various animals. The attic is also covered with a room full of deer antlers. It looks extremely terrifying. Detective Jack hopes to find clues to the other 7 victims from here, but will keenly realize that the other 7 people no longer exist. That means it has already been eaten. But I want to eat 7 people. It must be a huge project. Jack also realized that Hobbs must have an accomplice, so Hobbs' daughter became Jack's primary suspect. But Will firmly said those victims were all done by Hobbs alone, but no specific explanation was provided. Next, Will found a golden hair thread at the scene. That's right, Someone has already taken the lead in coming here. After returning, Will continues to analyze Hobbs' case to the students, but Jack quickly found it again. Original. The superior has reapproved his authority to perform field tasks, because there is another bizarre case that requires Will's help in restoring the scene, but a psychological assessment must be done before attendance. After all, Hobbs was his first time shooting and killing someone, although it's a mission, but killing inevitably leaves a psychological shadow on people. Will felt some resistance when he heard it. Obviously he doesn't want anyone to explore his inner world, but with Jack's persuasion, Will had to find Hannibal, but the conversation hasn't started yet. Hannibal just gave a psychological report directly. Tell Will, everything is normal. Hannibal believed that psychological assessment is just a piece of paper for Jack to seek psychological comfort, because he asked Will for help. I don't want to ruin Will because of this. What Will really needs now is not a psychological assessment, but a way to get out of the darkness. Because after Will killed Hobbs, I also brought some things back from the scene. That's a sense of guilt. He saved Hobbs' daughter, and it also made him an orphan. Hence, this feeling forced Will to have the idea of taking care of Hobbs' daughter. That's why he thinks Hobbs' daughter is not an accomplice. But, in Hannibal's eyes, everything is possible. In the following conversation, Hannibal not only accurately expressed Will's true thoughts about his inner world, as being indirectly attacking Will's psychological defense line, let him release his true self, accepting the pleasure of shooting and killing oneself. After the end, Will and Jack arrived at the new crime scene together. I saw a large number of mushrooms in the forest using human bodies as the culture medium. There is also an arm with a hanging bottle among them. From deep underground, the killer seems to have injected them with some kind of medication. The police carried out 9 bodies covered in mushrooms from the soil. They have already rotted to varying degrees. It looks extremely terrifying. It makes one's spine cool, but I want to understand the entire process. Will needs to do an on-site restoration. These people were already in a permanent coma when they were buried, but there was no death. The killer's trying to cultivate mushrooms, inject them with nutritional drugs, to prolong their lives. During the restoration process, Will hallucinates again, seeing Hobbs' figure. When he suddenly regained his consciousness, scared by the sudden extension of the arm again, there is actually one alive among the 9 people, and everything that happened at the scene was secretly captured by a woman. He even flirted with a bald detective. Got some information from Will. Will, who returned from the scene, found Hannibal again. He feels that his current state is not suitable for work. Ask him to redo the psychological assessment report. After Hannibal learned that he had seen Hobbs again, say, he's just under a lot of pressure. You don't have to report to Jack either. He just fantasized about other victims as his own. Because after Will killed Hobbs, deep down there's excitement. Seeing Will fall into contemplation, Hannibal exuded an imperceptible subtle expression. Subsequently, he asked Will about the situation at the scene again, although there was a survivor at the scene, but unfortunately, I couldn't make it to the hospital. He doesn't understand why the killer buried the victim in the soil as fertilizer, and then feed their true intention by injecting nutrient solution. Hannibal's analysis theory. The structure of fungi is like the human brain. It's a complex web. The killer may be admiring the connections between individual fungi. To analyze the relationship between people, the conversation between the two was revealed by a woman. He was also the woman who was secretly filmed on site. When Hannibal opened the door, the woman learned that she was seeking psychological counseling from Hannibal. But how can this little trick escape Hannibal's eye? Hannibal reminded him, as a tabloid journalist, doing so is very unethical behavior, and he also knows that he came to inquire about Will's news. Hannibal demanded that he immediately delete the recording. Finally, it is meaningful to say that, I am very, very good. The next morning, a grilled lamb with all the colors, flavors is served on the table. The guest is Jack. Hannibal invited him for 2 purposes. One is to let him taste his superb cooking skills. Also, let him not worry about Will's condition. Don't lose your beloved foal just because you love it too much. Jack ate with relish. I also agree with Hannibal's statement. Meanwhile, forensic experts have determined that all 9 people buried alive died of kidney failure, and they were injected with glucose. Will, through these clues, it is analyzed that these victims are all diabetes patients. The killer must have switched their diabetes drugs, make them appear diabetes hypersmolar coma, and then he was buried in the soil by the killer in a coma. Continue to supplement them with sugar through infusion. Try to fully absorb the circulating system as much as possible. Can cultivate mushrooms very well. Therefore, the killer must be a doctor. People who need to keep records, or engage in the medical industry. Now they have taken away the mushroom source of the killer. That means the killer will create a new mushroom source. They must catch the killer before the new victim appears. Based on the same symptoms and medication locations of the 9 victims, they quickly locked in a pharmacy, but a pharmacist who was just working suddenly disappeared. But in the trunk of the car that requires a technician, discovered a dying victim. Clear, the pharmaceutical technician as killer cultivating mushrooms. Undoubtedly. Subsequently, the police also found it in the computer of the drug technician. He saw the crime, uncover information online. I learned about the police's actions. In order to escape first, based on the publisher's information, Jack directly led the team to find it. Turns out to be a tabloid reporter. What surprised me a bit was that Hannibal's feast for Jack's flesh was not from a tabloid journalist. He is also the one who went to Hobbs' cabin first. The reason why he posted the first scene photos he collected of the crime mystery website. Just venting my dissatisfaction. He believes that Will has a mental problem, and the police should not let one psychopath investigate another psychopath, and at the same time he blamed the bald detective Jack for his access to information, and therefore he was not arrested, just warning him not to write any more information about Will in the future. As expected, bare-headed agent suspended from investigation. He found a tabloid reporter. Ask why you want to blame yourself. Unexpectedly, the tabloid reporter still doesn't know how to converge. Unexpectedly dug up the corner of old detective's wall. I want to introduce him to a job that pays 10 times more than being an agent. It looks like he's not the first person to be planted. Just between the two of them talking, the killer pharmacist suddenly appeared with a shot. Send the bald agent back to the crew, but he didn't harm the tabloid reporter. After the police arrived at the scene, a tabloid reporter told Jack, "Murderer, the pharmacist seems very interested in Will. I asked him a lot about Will. I told him everything I knew in fear, and there's also Will guarding Hobbs' daughter every day." The pharmacist also said that humans and fungi share the same characteristics. Thinking jumps mutates, and evolves between the brain and the brain. He believes that Will is someone who can understand his own ideas, so the pharmacist wants to help Will establish a connection with Hobbs' daughter. He wants to turn Hobbs' daughter into a mushroom culture medium. Meanwhile, Will, who just arrived at the hospital, received a call from Jack after learning about the pharmacist's movements. Arriving in a panic at Hobbs' daughter's ward, but the hospital bed is already empty, he quickly went downstairs to search. Just around the corner, I saw a pharmacist with a flustered expression. He pulled the trigger without hesitation, knocked down the pharmacist to the ground. The pharmacist repeatedly emphasized, humans evolved from fungi. The human brain can connect and communicate with fungi. I'm helping him establish a connection. Because he knew Will wanted to get close to Hobbs' daughter, just bury him in the soil, cultivate into fungi. When Will walked into those fungi, they can sense it. You can connect and communicate with the other party. For such a strange theory, Wilma remained silent. Afterwards, Will found Hannibal again for psychological testing. He didn't see Hobbs when he fired this time. That means the illusion that previously troubled Will, not because he killed Hobbs, but the pleasure it felt after killing Hobbs, make him feel uneasy. The reason why he didn't kill the pharmacist, because he understands what the other person is doing. The pharmacist grows fungi that have a special aesthetic feeling. He is one of the few people who can appreciate. Will is being guided step by step by Hannibal, slowly moving towards the direction of blackening.